Hello and welcome back to the TVBinges.com Pilot Roundtable, a Southgate Media Group podcast. I'm Kyle Tremblay, the editor of TVBinges.com, and I am joined as always by a fellow TV Binges writer. She's got plans to build a big wall between our podcast and other podcasts. It's Olivia Richards. Hello.
Hey, working on it right now.
Yeah, that's right. So we are talking about, this isn't a podcast about topical political humor, as much as I know everyone would want that. Instead, we are talking about Fox's second show to premiere of this new year. It's the Seth McFarlane-produced animated comedy, Bordertown. Olivia, what did you think of this pilot?
It should be noted that I made it through 9 minutes of this.
Oh.
And that was enough.
Good work. Good work. Wow.
Starting off 2016 very strong.
So, before we get into your specific thoughts, and I can see which direction this is going, because my thoughts are much the same, although I lasted the whole pilot. What are your thoughts on Seth MacFarlane in general?
I have very mixed feelings on him.
Okay.
I think that he's a very bright writer and performer, and I think that he has a lot of comedic talent, and there are things I certainly have liked him in, like his movie Ways to Die in the West.
Oh, you like that? Okay. Okay. We'll move on.
Yeah, I know. That being said, I think he has a reputation that he easily falls back on, and he kind of has developed a pattern of the things that he puts his efforts behind, in that there's not much effort behind them.
Yeah, I mean, that's, the criticism often levied against Family Guy is that it's ripping off The Simpsons, and that is, there's certainly some merit to that. I mean, how much merit, I think, is up for debate, and how much originality actually matters is also up for debate. But Family Guy clearly has been a very successful show, and definitely has its charms, and I'm not a Family Guy fan, but if I sit through an episode of Family Guy, I'm going to laugh. And that's the thing with Seth MacFarlane, is I think what he's known for is producing things that have like not a good joke batting average, but there's so many jokes that some of them are going to work. I think he definitely makes comedies that are comedies, and throws a lot of stuff at the wall. And I saw Ted in the theater, and the theater loved it, and I laughed a lot. I know I'm not going to go see Ted 2. I'm not crazy. But
you respect yourself.
I respect myself a little bit. But Ted in a full theater was a great comedy movie experience, because everyone's laughing. There's a ton of dumb jokes, but there's enough good funny stuff in there to carry the movie and sort of make you forget about all the jokes that didn't work. Like you said, I think he gets into trouble when he gets a little bit too lazy, and we should say he isn't the writer of this show. The writer is another Family Guy writer whose name I forget. But so he's just executive producing this. But this, what I'm getting at is, this feels like a karaoke version of a Seth MacFarlane show. This is like a karaoke cover of Family Guy, and it's not a particularly good one either. It's like the drunk guy at the office getting up on stage at the bar and doing karaoke of Family Guy. And if that kind of comedy isn't really tuned in, then I think it can go really badly, and it goes really badly here.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Again, I got about 9 minutes in, and I just had to pull the plug on that. It was I kind of thought it was going to be that, where again, I feel like Family Guy it is such a popular franchise, and MacFarlane has done so much good work with it. But I feel like he kind of falls back on that too much. So you have shows that he's done since then, like American Dad, and now this show where he almost is kind of piggybacking on, the success of Family Guy. And especially with the content of this program, I was really iffy about it, obviously, because it is a very sensitive topic. It's something that's going on. And again, with the style that he has, where he just kind of throws jokes at the wall, where it's more really about quantity than it is about quality.
Yes,
That's what I was kind of taking from it.
Yeah, and this is we should say the premise of the show is that a an openly racist border patrol officer named Bud, who is voiced by Hank Azaria, is lives next door to a Mexican family, and they're both families. The Bud's son and the daughter from the other family are in love, and so it's kind of a mismatch family dynamic. I'm already bored talking about it, but
Yep.
the point of this whole show is to make jokes about the immigration situation in America, which when they conceptualized this show and when it was pitched to Fox, there's no way that that was like in the middle of the Donald Trump stuff. And so like in theory this show hit the jackpot because there's no way that when this show was like pitched that topic was so at the center stage in American political discourse. And so there's a huge opportunity here to really like ride the wave that's going to last at least through November and probably longer of this being one of the preeminent topics in our political debate. But this show is so unconcerned with any kind of nuance and is so unconcerned with making any kind of points that it is really just drawing the broadest possible caricatures of people on both sides of the debate and then making them say outrageous things. And then, as with most comedy pilots this year, bringing them together at the end to try to redeem them. Like, that's what this pilot does. And it fails so spectacularly that I mean, I didn't even come close to laughing at this, which is a real problem on a show that all it's trying to do is make you laugh.
Yep.
So, yeah, there's a real missed opportunity here. Like, to try to, like, capitalize on what's being talked about. Like, the way, and obviously this isn't Seth MacFarlane's goals, but maybe it should be, is to try to do something like the Carmichael Show, where he's taking, like, quote-unquote hot-button topics, but dealing with them in a really, like, smart way, and finding a lot of, like, actual funny comedy in there. This is the opposite of that. This is just, honestly, like, this show, the comprehension level for this show is, like, 8-year-olds. Like, you don't have to understand anything about anything to quote-unquote get every joke in this pilot. There's just, like, nothing here that has any kind of weight to it or any kind of bite. It's all purely surface level. It's all just like just surveying the scene from 1,000 miles up and taking pot shots, and nothing lands.
And that's what made me so sad because, like, again, you know, it is such a deep issue of what's happening right now, and it's like to have that surface level comedy, I just think it's kind of cheap and it's lazy. And you know, Seth MacFarlane has been criticized for it before, where it's like there's a time for pushing boundaries and there's a time for kind of, you know, forsaking political correctness. But then there's also a time to, like, if you're going to talk about a situation, like, you can talk about a situation. Like, it can be funny, but, like, you kind of have to, like, go deeper and don't just throw cheap jokes at something. Like, yeah. I don't know. I think that this was a little bit, at least for me, it just kind of left a bad taste in my mouth. It just wasn't something that I really wanted to be watching.
Yeah, as evidenced by the 9 minutes you made it through.
Exactly. That was a record.
And I think the important thing is, it's not that every comedy should have some kind of higher purpose. You know, that hey, whatever, you know, there will always be a place for comedies that all they do is make you laugh and nothing else. Like, there really isn't any reason that you can't have a comedy like that. But the problem is, with an issue like this, in order to find the humor, you've got to go a bit deeper. Like, the problem is he hasn't found the humor in the situation. He's just, like, drawing broad caricatures and making fun of them. There's nothing resonates about that. And, like, the reason that the Carmichael Show is so funny is that it digs so deep that it hits the small part of these very serious issues that is funny or ironic, and it lives in that. Like that's what, if you're going to do an issues-driven comedy, that's kind of what you've got to do, because otherwise it just is completely dismissible, and anyone who has any sort of familiarity with the issue is just going to roll their eyes at it, because it's so missing the mark about what could be funny about this. And I'd like to think we're past the point where having an openly racist main character is funny in and of itself. Like that's it just that there's nothing inherently funny about that, because people are actually like that, as we're seeing today. And so it's not so much satire as it is reality. And so if you don't have something else up your sleeve, if all you've got is openly racist character, well, I can go read Facebook and find openly racist characters. Like, there's nothing funny about the Border Patrol guy, like, who's racist and wants to build a wall and hates everyone who's immigrated here. Like, that's not a comic situation, because as we're seeing, a decent-sized chunk of this country are that guy. So if you are that, like, it's accidentally too close to reality. And that so that to me is what really struck me as unfunny, is that it just takes like what an animated version of what really is like a person, but it doesn't do anything with that. It doesn't have any kind of, there's no moral to the story. And that was the real failing here for me.
I completely agree, and that's kind of what really set me off. I mean, like, literally, of just turning it off, because I was like, I don't know why. And, like, here's, like, if I just thought, like, there are comedies that just shouldn't be made into comedies, like, that just aren't funny, and we've, previewed plenty of them. But it's, like, it's kind of sad when a show had a potential to do something, or, like, at least be funny about something, and it just, like, either chose not to, or it just kind of decided to go the easy route. And I felt like this, kind of easy way, where they're like, oh, we're just make a lot of jokes.
Oh, yeah. This
where
took...
I'm like, okay.
Yes, this took every easy option. There is nothing about this that is challenging or has any kind of significance. They didn't. This is the laziest comedy I've seen for a while. Like, in terms of just not. I mean, you've got this issue that is on everyone's minds right now, and it's not even making an effort to engage. Like, it's not even a little bit does it make an effort, and that's disappointing. They got all this serendipity with the show premiering at a time when its one issue is at the forefront, and they really just squandered it by having no interest in the issue, really. Just sort of using the issue as a setting to essentially copy the Family Guy characters and the Simpsons characters and rehash the same old Seth McFarlane show. So that's disappointing. And it was disappointing to viewers, too, because it did a 1.1 in the demo with 2.63 million overall viewers. So it had the same number of overall viewers as its lead-in, fellow premiere Cooper Barrett's Guide Does Whatever. And but it actually had a smaller demo rating, so it somehow lost on what was a disastrously bad lead-in. So probably not great. Although Fox is in the Seth MacFarlane business, and so you wonder how that's going to play into the decision that I want you to predict, which is canceled quickly, makes it through the season, or renewed for next season.
That's actually the point I wanted to bring up, and the big question that I have, because personally, just watching the show and then looking at the ratings, I would say it's not going to last. It's not even going to make it to a mid-season. However, being that it is a MacFarlane production, I'm wondering how much Fox is going to want to get out of this.
Yeah, and you wonder with this one if they could recalibrate it on the fly. Because like South Park famously does its episodes the week before they air, or even the week that they air, I think. And so comedies can have, or animated shows, and I think this is the first animated show we ever talked about on this podcast.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, amazing. Animated shows can have insanely quick turnaround times. And I just wonder if there's a way that they can take a look at what's happening. Like, I wonder if this pilot was made well in advance, and if they can drastically change what the show is to account for the importance that people are putting on this issue now. Because this feels like a show that was written at a time when people didn't really care about this issue. And now people care about it a lot, and if it's going to reflect that, it needs to be a very different show. And I wonder if, after a few episodes, the show could do some drastic rewriting. But barring that, it's not going to work. Like, this is not a show that's going to work at all. And so I'm going to say it makes it through the season for the reasons that you said, that Fox probably doesn't want to do anything to anger Seth MacFarlane. He's obviously made them a lot of money. And so I suspect, out of deference to him, they'll take it through the season. But so Olivia, your final verdict, thumbs up or thumbs down on Bordertown?
It's 2 thumbs down for me. This is not something that I would want to continue on. They would have to do major revamping, but as we've seen and from what they've, done so far, this isn't something that I would want to ever continue watching.
Yeah, I will not watch another second of this show unless I read that they have done some kind of major changes, and that's not unheard of for comedies. And with the sort of unique situation that this one is in with its premise, I just wonder if that's a possibility for them. But if they're just going to keep it like this, then there's absolutely no reason to watch this show. And it's also 2 thumbs down from me. So, you've been listening to the Pilot Roundtable, a TVAdventures.com and Southgate Media Group production. You can listen to all of our podcasts on iTunes, where you can rate and review us. We appreciate that. Or find us at SouthgateMediaGroup.com. Follow Olivia on Twitter at RichardsOlivia, and me on Twitter at KyleLovesTV. Until next time.